Okay, I'm not.
So, Shalom Lekulam, welcome to our department seminar here in the Bar-Ilan University Jewish Art Department. This year we have a very rich program in the first semester and also in the second. The first lecture we are honored to guest Sara Offenberg, and Laura Jacobi will introduce her. So please, Laura.
Welcome everyone to the seminar. It's a distinct pleasure to introduce my teacher, Professor Sara Offenberg, who is currently the head of the Department of the Arts at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. She is the author of 3 books. Between 2014 and 2017, she was co-editor of the journal Ars Judaica here at the Department of Jewish Art at Bar-Ilan University, our journal. And since 2021, she has been the managing editor of Mabatim, Journal of Visual Culture, the Hebrew language journal of art history, the only one in Israel, if I'm not mistaken. In 2022, she was knighted Donna of the Yitzchak Navon Order of the Knights of Ladino. So a very distinct honor. And just a sign of how beloved Sara is by her colleagues, who because Sara is so generous with her. Not only is she so knowledgeable about all things, not only concerning medieval Jewish arts and literature, but also a wide variety of topics, and she shares very generously of her wisdom with her colleagues. I'm speaking from experience. Sara's research focuses on various topics, including German pietists, Hebrew illuminated manuscripts, and the visual and textual dimensions of anti-Semitism across historical periods, not just in the medieval period. So we're very excited to host Sara as she will enlighten us on the history of anti-Semitism. Sara, all yours.
Thanks so much. I'll just share my presentation. Oh, no, not good. I've done something. Oops. Very knowledgeable. Okay. Can you see it? It's all good?
Yes, we can see.
And I'm going to read. In the final season of the Israeli satirical series, The Jews Are Coming, היהודים באים, there's a sketch dealing with the background for the 1917 Balfour Declaration, showing Chaim Weizmann and another Jewish representative of the Yeshuv before the Lord Balfour. When Balfour refuses the request, his secretary begins to express fears regarding what Jews might do, since they control all the banks, the media, Hollywood, and even lizard people, according to the secretary. Each time, Weizmann tries to calm her down, not understanding the superstition. This sketch illustrates the enduring stereotypes directed against Jews from the Middle Ages to the present day, highlighting accusations of global conspiracy, financial control, blood libels, and even ancient charge of Jews being agents of the devil is not deemed sufficient. Instead, the discourse expands to include modern claims of association with exterritorial, with lizard people. This contemporary example opens onto a central question of this lecture, which is part of a project that I'm currently undertaking. How have humor and satire functioned across history as tools of confront reframe, and internalize anti-Semitic stereotypes. I will offer a historical and aesthetic perspective of performing arts on the continuity of such imagery from the Middle Ages to the 21st century, emphasizing humor's role as a subversive tool for dismantling these images, while sometimes also reproducing them. Today, I will focus on two case studies. The French film sont partout, they are everywhere, the Jews, and the Israeli satire, the Jews are coming, היהודים. I wish to show that how satire stages the grotesque persistence of a stereotype. Hook noses, money grabbing, global conspiracy, etc., while simultaneously exposing their absurdity, not denying them, but exaggerating, inverting, and internalizing them. To understand how such satirical strategies developed and why humor becomes a distinctive mode of confronting anti-Semitism, we must first turn to the broader question of what constitutes Jewish humor and how it has been theorized. In a seminal essay from his seminar essay from 1973, Dan Ben Amos examines whether there is such a thing as Jewish humor, particularly self-deprecating humor, which emerged as a coping mechanism woven into the cultural identity and socio-economical conditions. Similarly, Jeremy Dalwer explores Jewish humor in the context of anti-Semitism, arguing that jokes often reflect internal tension and struggles within Jewish communities, balancing resilience and adaptation to social pressure. As Aryeh Sover and Ruth Weiss argues, Jewish humor emerges not merely as an entertainment, but as a profound cultural mechanism of endurance, showing how wit and irony functions as both self-defense and self-definition within Jewish culture. Before we can fully situate this tradition within the historical context, however, we must clarify the terminology through which anti-Semitism itself is defined and debated. Using terms like anti-Semitism or anti-Jewish in research spanning pre-modern Europe to the 21st century necessitates a careful consideration of historical context and evolving definitions. The term anti-Semitism is often applied to describe modern forms of hostility against Jews, particularly in contexts shaped by racial, political, and national ideologies that arose from the 19th century onwards. However, when examining pre-modern European contexts, the term anti-Jewish may be more appropriate, as it accounts for religious and social projections against Jews that was not yet rooted in rationalized or nationalistic frameworks of modern anti-Semitism. By distinguishing between these terms, scholarship has more effectively discussed the shifting ideology, theology, and social framework that have shaped the attitudes toward Jews across historical periods, allowing for a more precise understanding of how such projection developed. With these definitions in place, we can turn to the scholarly attempts to map the longue durée of the anti-Jewish stereotype. Mentioning only a few examples, starting from Joshua Trachtenberg to Robert Weisstreich and David Nirenberg and so forth. All of them demonstrate how ideas of the Jew functions as a recurring image of thought across centuries, adapting to changing cultural, political, and social needs. anti-Jewish aspects of Christian art have been focal point of art historians for some time now. And art history provides one of the most revealing lenses through which these eruptions can be observed, not only in Christian depictions of Jews, but also Jewish responses, Jewish visual responses. Methodologically, this study follows the lead of art historians such as Anthony Bale, Flora Casson, Madeleine Cavanas, Jeremy Coyne, Sarah Lipton, and Mary Rubin, who have developed comparative approaches across different media, including cinema, while tracing the meaning of anti-Jewish imagery across centuries. At the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the new millennia, the leading approach of research on Jewish-Christian relations was to examine anti-Jewish images and analyze the way in which Jews reacted to them. Those studies involved looking at anti-Jewish portrayals in Christian art and identifying similar iconographies in Jewish art, such as the well-known synagogue in Jewish art versus the very known one from Strasbourg. By expanding the study into the domain of visual and performative culture, elsewhere I argued that Jewish art did not merely endure anti-Semitic stereotype, but actively reshaped them through parody, inversion, and symbolic combat. We can now turn to a contemporary cinematic case study that enacts these ideas on screen. About a decade ago, in 2016, following the terrorist attacks against Jews in France and Belgium, the producer, director, and actor, Ivan Attal, released a satirical film called Ils sont partout, literally meaning they are everywhere, translated into English as the Jews. In this work, Attal confronts his Jewish identity within the atmosphere of spreading anti-Semitism. The film tells the story of Ivan, played by Attal himself, whose profound anxiety about the pervasive anti-Semitism in France becomes the central theme. As he begins to perceive anti-Semitism everywhere, he decides to undergo therapy in order to deal with these fears. Ivan imagines a series of exaggerated comic sketches based on misunderstanding of popular Jewish stereotype presented throughout the film, which itself is composed as a sequence of absurd and sophisticated skits. We'll begin with the poster of the movie, which uses only a few lines to depict a faceless yet unmistakably Jewish figure that is of an ultra-Orthodox man. The poster implies minimalistic design to signal an immediately recognizable Jewish identity. At the same time, however, it engages a stereotype developed in caricatures on social media in recent decades. The film's title, which is direct translation meaning they are everywhere, appropriates and parodies the title of the anti-Semitic journal Je suis partout, I am everywhere, published in the 1930s, which disseminates anti-Semitic articles and images that had been familiar in France since the 19th century. Although the Hebrew translation of the title refers to the Jews being everywhere, היהודים בכל מקום, in an interview with Gabi Levin of Haaretz, Attal emphasized that his real intention was to point to the anti-Semites that are everywhere. The film opens with a narrative about a nationalist politician modeled after the far-right figure of Marine Le Pen. Shortly before the elections, her ambitious husband discovers his maternal his maternal grandmother was Jewish. At first, he spits at his reflection in the bathroom mirror as he examines his nose, referring to himself as a Burman. Clear reference to the Jewish hook nose have been apparent ever since the caricature of Isaac of Norwich in 1233, where the devil points at Isaac and his wife's nose. And Sara Lipton wrote a lot about this. In an 1852 book entitled Notes on Noses by George Gebet, who wrote it as a satire and later taken seriously under the pseudonym of Eden Warwick, we find an entire chapter on the Jewish nose. It starts with a physical description and moves to the meaning of the character of the person, that is the Jew, with such a nose. And I read, and I quote, "The Jewish or hooked nose is very convex and preserves in its convexity like a bow throughout the whole length from the eyes to the tip. It is thin and sharp. It indicates considerable shrewdness in worldly matters and deep insights into character and facility of turning that insights into a profitable account." In the outline of the book's classification of noses, the author also provides a small sketch that each particular nose, and the description of the snub nose highlights that it's different from the Jewish nose. Return to the movie and the Jewish politician character. Later in the story, he convinces his wife to pretend that she has cancer and that he can take her place as the leading politician of the party. When his secret is revealed, and this is the scene you see here, he claims that his party cannot be anti-Semitic since he is Jewish. Thus, he also reveals the shrewdness of Jewish people when put to the test. In another of the movie's sketch, which addresses the idea of how Jews help each other, we observe the stereotype of the petty and almost obsessive nature of Jewish yeshiva scholars. One scholar approaches another with a philosophical question, sparking a lively and intense debate. Two men come down a chimney. One comes out with a clean face. The other comes out with a dirty face. Which one washes his face? This is an old folkloristic joke, which Attal repurposed in the movie to serve as a serious Talmudic theme and how Talmudic reasoning are perceived. The first person sees his friend is clean and assumes he must be clean too. While the second person sees the other covered in soap and concludes that he must be dirty. The question and the answers become so entangled that reaching a logical conclusion seems almost impossible. The very premise that the two people could emerge from the same chimney, yet only one would be dirty, is inherently flawed. This type of time-consuming and ultimately meaningless argument is used as a satirical commentary on how Jews are perceived. In the satirical Israeli TV show, The Jews Are Coming, היהודים באים, there's a sketch that addresses the anti-Semitic myth of the Elders of Zion, presenting a satirical take on the stereotypical Jewish dominance of the world. In this sketch, an ongoing discussion about the possibility of the image of Jews taking over the world in the form of an octopus lead one of the Jews at the table to ponder the main question. How could a giant octopus that is holding on to the world breathe out of water? The sketch flips the subject on its head by mocking Jewish meticulousness and attention to details. The central rabbi, whose name is Goldberg, is portrayed as embodying the stereotypical association between Jews and money. He dictates the protocols of the elders of Zion, explaining that their first goal is to take over America through the funds generated by interest-bearing loans. His entire body language, particularly the way in which he holds his hands with bent figures, conveys a sense of conspiracy and malicious intent. And to his right also sits a character with a hooked nose shown in profile to emphasize the stereotypical Jewish features. The character on Rabbi Goldberg's left, who is tasked with writing the protocols, begins to question whether an octopus, painted with light blue, just like the actual Zeppelin caricature from 1938, is an effective symbol. He worries about how the octopus will breathe and expresses concern that the headlines will blame Jews for causing an extermination of the species. The man rabbi responds with a heavy Yiddish accent. Zuckerman, we're planning to take over the world. Don't you think that this will make worse headlines? Despite this, Zuckerman remains unconvinced and tries to explain the challenges of waging war against an octopus as a species. Eventually, they all agree that the octopus is only an allegory. However, the sketch ends with a humoristic twist. Two octopuses in the sea, with one saying to another, "Have you heard? The Jews are planning to murder giant octopus in space." Both sketches, Attal's movie and the one from The Jews Are Coming, deploy the same satirical strategy. They expose the absurdity of anti-Semitic stereotypes by exaggerating them to the limits of logic. The Talmudic-style debate about the soul and the chimney parallels the ridiculous discussion about the possibility of Jewish octopus breathing out of water while taking over the world. In both cases, satire does not erase the image, but rather dismantles it through the conscious interrationalizing of its own logic. Attal, like the creators of The Jews Are Coming, presents the Jew as someone so deeply immersed in detail that he loses touch with reality. Yet contemporary performative humor succeeds in returning power to Jewish hands. It makes the image self-aware, exposes the folly at its core, and ultimately undermines the legitimacy of anti-Semitic reasoning altogether. In this way, both sketches create a space with an octopus where the stereotypical Jewish figure serves as a vehicle of revealing the cultural absurdity of projective itself. In an article from 1983, Ben-Gurion carefully analyzed how German passion plays of the 15th and 16th century paved the way for popular consent of mass expulsion of the Jews from German lands. And a similar claim is presented by Judy Anders regarding the role of mystery plays in France. In 1938, the Yiddish comedy duo Jigan and Schumacher staged a sketch titled "The Lester Yid in Poland," the last Jew in Poland. a response to the Austrian film The City Without Jews from 1924. This sketch imagined how Warsaw would look in 1938. It was made just a year before 38, after all the Jews have been expelled, whereupon the authorities finally realized that Poland's conditions has deteriorated and begged the last remaining Jew not to leave. They even tried to bribe him with gefilte fish. According to Diego Rothman, who wrote a book about the duo, the sketch, which was taken off stage only after 5 performances out of fear of arrest, stands out not only as a scathing critique of anti-Semitic hypocrisy, but also as a bold expression of Jewish cultural resistance in the face of escalating political persecution. Attal's movie offers a reversed methodology, showing what might happen if an European country, France, were to become a Jewish state. In the epilogue of the movie, which is entitled Israel and Israel, ostensibly dealing with the state of Israel, the citizens of France hold a referendum and vote to transform France into a Jewish state. The idea originates with the president, the French president, according to the movie, who is desperate to rescue the economy, believes that France would benefit financially from the change since all the Jews are rich, wealthy. Meanwhile, we see 2 Israeli men, they are very known actors in Israel, Gabi Amrani and Ilan Dar. They are shown sitting against the background of the Mount Temple, playing and talking in Hebrew, discussing the notion of the French turning their country into a Jewish state and saying it is a very bad idea and bad for the Jews. After the referendum, the French start to dance hora on the streets, and you can see the flag, which combines between the French flag and the Star of David. The final scene takes place 6 months later, after the referendum, when the transformation is complete. We see an aerial view of Paris with the Eiffel Tower at the center, as sirens blare over loudspeakers and a missile is launched towards the tower. Against the background of the alarm, the conversation between the 2 Israelis is heard, their voices struggling over to raise above the wail, suggesting that an attack in one location where the Jews raise directly affect another location inhabited by Jews. And they say to each other, didn't I tell you or didn't I? Wherever there are Jews, you are right. The anti-Semitism has returned. When the hell did it ever leave? And that's almost the last scene of the movie. This last sketch concerning the place of the State of Israel engages with political stereotypes tied to Israel and the global Jewish identity, moving beyond the personal stereotypes examined in earlier parts of the film. The notion that France could resolve its economical problems by turning itself into a Jewish state plays on both modern anti-Semitic narratives of Jewish financial control and political fantasies about Israel's supposed superpower status. By depicting a Jewish France threatened by missile attack, Attal parodized the way political actors project unrealistic expectations and fear onto Jewish identity and the existence of Israel. To conclude this part, the persistence of anti-Semitic stereotypes throughout history reveals the enduring power of cultural and visual narratives in shaping public perceptions of Jews. Attal's film satirized these stereotypes, exposing the absurdity and the danger that emerge in such projections. Unlike satirical works from the American entertainment industry, Attal's film offers an insider's perspective on Jewish identity and anti-Semitism within a distinctly French culture and political framework. For instance, the sketch of the far-right politician who discovers his Jewish ancestry has both French nationalist figure and anti-Semitic attitudes, situates them firmly within contemporary French political climate. The film was released shortly after a series of significant anti-Semitic attacks in Europe and during a period of heightened tension and fear among European Jews. It was in 2016. Its reception in French media and public opinion was sharply divided, underscoring its role as a cultural litmus test, capturing the complexities of modern European antisemitism and Jewish identity outside of the American context. We shall now turn to the Israeli satire, The Jews Are Coming. In the third season, The Jews Are Coming staged the disputation of Barcelona between the convert Pablo Cristiani and Nachmanides, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, in 1263, the historical disputation. This is one of the three famous public disputations initiated by converted Jews in which the Talmud was the main focus of the debate. The first was the 1240 Paris Talmud trial between Rabbi Yechiel of Paris and the convert Nicholas Donin. One reason why the mendicant orders waged these trials was an attempt to Christianize the Jews. In so doing, they called citations from the Talmud as proofs that the rabbis have already acknowledged Jesus as the true Messiah. Jews were aware of their role as the target of the mission, and evidence of Christian intentions surrounded them throughout the urban space. The public disputes reflected a spiritual persecution of Jews that compounded the physical persecution. Christians, guided by converted Jews, also attacked the Talmud as a blasphemous and heretical book. And one consequences of the 1240 trial was the public burning of the Talmud in 1242. Thus, on the one hand, the Talmud was exploited as a tool to convince the Jews that the Messiah had already arrived, and of course that he was Jesus. But on the other hand, it was rejected as heretical. The Jews Are Coming sketch about the 1263 debate is presented almost like a popular quiz show or public debate night, complete with Christianity being introduced in the style of a radio announcer calling out the name of the soccer player entering the field. The host opens with the provocative line. Tonight we shall find out which religion is stronger, cool Christianity or depressing Judaism. While in the historical disputation, it was argued about whether the Messiah has arrived or not. In the sketch, well, Christianity takes the podium, he excites the audience by sounding a trumpet like a soccer stadium floor. The moderator then announces. It calls upon the Jewish rabbi, and he tells that he is thinker, scholar, mathematician, physician, philosopher, halachic authority, and astronomer. Please welcome Maimonides, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. At this point, Nachmanides appears instead. This play on a recurring joke in several sketches, both Nachmanides, Ramban, and Maimonides, Rambam, belongs to the same category of learned man. Yet Rambam, Maimonides, despite belonging to an earlier generation, is the famous one everyone expects, while Ramban, Nachmanides, is the lesser known one. The similarity of their abbreviated names, Rambam, Ramban, even I made a mistake now, becomes a running gag. Ban, that's the way that Nachmanides introduces himself. The host turns to Christianity and asks, is Jesus the Messiah? Christianity simply displays a crucifix with the figure of Jesus and declares that he is not saying anything, merely asking, doesn't he look like the Messiah to you? He punctuates his performance with a joke, considers himself a winner, and once more blows the trumpet, shouting, Ole, before jeering at Nachmanides. Boom, right at your Jewish face. Nachmanides demands the right to reply, which he is granted. He explains, as it will be known, with the coming of the Messiah, the resurrection of the dead will occur. Since the resurrection has not yet taken place, it is clear that the Messiah has not come. Jesus, precisely because he was real, alive, and seemingly did not come, cannot be the Messiah. In the historical account, the disputation continues with more argumentations from both sides. However, in the sketch, an awkward silence falls over the audience until Nachmanides, makes a joke about his mother-in-law. The crowd erupts into laughter and cheers, calling out, Rambam, Rambam, at which he corrects them, Ban. The moderator declares him the winner, but his prize is immediate expulsion from Spain. Guards arrive to escort him out, and the moderator concludes by announcing that the next disputation between Judaism and Christianity will take place in Tortosa in 2,000 years' time. Nina Caputo, Debating the Truth, a graphic history, underscores how the same historical event can be narrated in fundamentally different ways. By juxtaposing Nachmanides' Hebrew account with Frere Paul's Latin version, the book highlights the extent to which perspective and power shape the telling of history. Caputo's use of a graphic novel also draws attention to the constructed nature of historical memory. When I was an undergraduate student on a course on Jewish-Christian relations in the Middle Ages, the lecturer, and later became my PhD supervisor, Professor Daniel Lasker, gave us an assignment to write about who had won the public disputation. The students, me included, confidently answered that the Jewish side had prevailed. Professor Lasker, however, explained that the very act of participating in public disputation was already, in itself, a defeat for the Jews. The aftermath of the Barcelona disputation was paradoxical. Nachmanides initially seemed to emerge with dignity. King James I praised his eloquence, awarded him money, and allowed him to speak freely, even in the face of Dominican objection. Yet this temporary protection quickly gave way to mounting pressure from the friars, who accused Nachmanides of blasphemy after he circulates his Hebrew account of the discussion. In 1265, he had been tried, his report had been condemned and burned, and he had sentenced to exile, first temporarily by royal decree and then effectively permanently after papal intervention. In the broader Jewish community, the disputation inaugurates new measures. Jews were obliged to attend Christian sermons. Jewish texts were subject to censorship, and polemical scrutiny of the rabbinic tradition intensified. Forced to leave Aragon, Nachmanides departed from the land of Israel. After where in 1267 he settled in Ar and reestablished the Jewish community life in Jerusalem. Thus, what began as a stage intellectual contest in the royal court had endured into exile. In the first season of The Jews Are Coming, there's a sketch depicting the first occurrences of this recurring mistake, set in the year 1250. After a woman and her son mistakenly thought Nachmanides to be Maimonides, finally a knight appears at the door who does in fact recognize Nachmanides correctly. Addressing him, he says, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, you represented of the jury of the Jews' disputation in Barcelona. You proved that the Vatican and the King of Spain, that Jesus is not the Messiah and their Christianity is nothing but nonsense. Nachmanides notes in acknowledgement, expressing appreciation that someone has finally recognized him. The knight then presents him with a royal decree of expulsion issued by the king. The gravity of these outcomes, exile, silencing, and intensified surveillance, emphasize how seemingly the debate contest was in fact a tool of coercion. However, The Jews Are Coming are looking at the comics as a comic spectacle, stages almost like a television debate shown or sport match. This satirical reframing exposes the inherent imbalance of power. Whereas the 13th century disputation ended in the royal papal sanctions against the Jews, the 21st century sketch reclaims the narrative by mocking the present of fairness and exposing the absurdity of determining religious truth through stage performance. Similarly, other sketches of The Jews Are Coming address blood libels and pogroms throughout direct reference to the atrocities themselves, but rather, without the atrocities themselves, but rather highlights the absurdity of history. For example, when it comes to the Norwich blood libel, it depicts a comic twist of imagines how the supposedly polite English would riot against Jews, complete with pause for tea. The recurring joke in this sketch is the name of the riots, John, Paul, and George, an obvious allusion to the three members of the Beatles with the absence of Ringo. While the three rioters in Norwich are portrayed as being excessively polite to one another, the Jewish couple whose home they had entered and whom they intend to torture and kill managed to free themselves from their ropes and escape. When John, Paul, and George see that, they say to themselves, these Jews, they have no manners at all. Likewise, when it comes to the Kishinev program, when it is portrayed as a banal manner throughout the perspective of two men and a woman sitting in a cafe, who discusses it as if it was an ordinary traffic jam. For them, the main nuance is having to listen to the screams of the Jews being slaughtered. In the end, they dismiss the event with the casual reassurance that it happens only once a year, suggesting that they are willing to tolerate the inconvenience of a program as a minor seasonal disturbance. The sketch that concludes the final season was generating significant impact on social media and even reached international audience. Written by Natalie Marcus, Moshe Malka, and Yaron Niske. The piece presents 7 Jews from across different historical periods in a continuous chain of monologues, each speaker passing the narrative on to the next, recounting the massacre that he or she survived. The sequence includes figures from the destruction of the Second Temple in 70, the Cologne massacre of the First Crusade in 1096, the Kishinev pogrom 1903, and the Hebron riots in 1929, Kristallnacht in Berlin in 1938, and the Farud in Baghdad in 1941. It culminates in a harrowing monologue delivered by the character who survived the massacre in Kibbutz Kfar Aza in 1223, portrayed by Shira Noel. The structure of the sketch thus dramatized a continuum of Jewish suffering across centuries, suggesting that each traumatic episode is both singular and part of a recurring historical pattern. By balancing the biblical past, medieval and modern pogroms, the Holocaust, and contemporary events in direct succession, the sketch collapses temporal boundaries and underscores the enduring vulnerability of Jewish communities. At the same time, its satirical framing draws attention to the ways in which collective trauma is narrated, remembered, and reenacted in the public sphere, thereby situating Jewish history within both a cultural memory of persecution and contemporary discourse of survival.
Thank you, Sara. It was a wonderful and very interesting lecture. So maybe now I will open the floor for questions and comments. So please, if you have questions or comments, raise your hand.
Okay. Usually this time I'm asking, may I go home now? But I'm
so Yes,
I'm
Lam?
sorry, I'm having I'm having a hard time with raising my hand
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay.
virtually.
I
I
think
know it exists.
they hid the hand raising
I can't see
icon in
it.
Zoom. They like redid. It's a new version of Zoom. So there, I get my hand.
Yeah, but where it is? Okay, anyway.
It's
Thank
under
you.
it's
I'm
under
raising my
React.
virtual hand.
So please,
Uh,
Yaki.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for a fascinating lecture. I really enjoyed it. If you could, if it is possible, to send all the links for the films and sketches you referred to in your presentation. I really like the Jews are coming, but I don't remember all those. Some of the phrases you said were very striking, like the one on the Jews losing simply by having to present themselves when the Ramban in Barcelona debate there. So thank you for that.
Thanks. And you can write me and I'll send you all the links.
I'm sorry, I'm having hard time following who to write and who is who. So if there is any kind of syllabus or reference, some summary or email or whatever that summarize this talk,
I
I'll
can
be
send
very
it
glad to get.
to you if it's okay.
You can send me. You can send me.
Yeah. Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
can I ask a question? I was wondering if in the series, if all of the episodes are responding to episodes of anti-Semitism in Europe, like in Christian Europe and secular Europe, but are there any discussions of anti-Semitism from Islamic lands before? Or
There are some, for example, the Faroud, but not many.
is there like a reason, like I mean,
Well,
is
usually they are taking something from the past and using it as satire against what happens in Israeli society today. So as a reflection. What I did just to take some sketches that refer to the anti-Semitism, but that's not the main point of this.
Thank you. So we have a question from the chat, so I will read from Kim. Do you find anti-Semitic illustrations in Jewish medieval manuscripts, not Christian ones? This is the question.
Not Christian. Well, I'm working only on Christian and Jewish manuscripts, not on Islamic manuscripts. But yeah, in Jewish Christian manuscripts, it's a lot, and Jewish manuscripts responses to anti-Semitism.
Okay, thank you. Tzvi, please.
Thank you, Sara, for this wonderful presentation. Of course, this is a presentation about the Jewish response to anti-Semitism. So the responses are very humorous sometimes, yeah. But do you have the same humor in the Middle Ages as today, or do you find a kind of Jewish humor that as a response to this anti-Semitism?
Sometimes I'm trying to find, but it's more subversive. It's most of the time they're trying to see how they can take the anti-Semitic image and just make it their own. But perhaps my sense of humor isn't that good that I can't find the joke within it. But sometimes we do find jokes, but it's not related to anti-Jewish ideas. But this is what I'm looking for now.
Thank you.
Well, any other questions or comments? Yes, please, David Casuto. Could you please unmute yourself, or I will try us to unmute? We don't hear you. Now. Yeah,
First
now we
of
can hear
all,
you. So please.
thank you for a very, very important lecture. I wonder if you can connect your lecture with what's happening today in Europe and in the States.
The only thing that I can see as an art historian, not as Sara, as the person, lives in southern Israel and is affected by everything. I'm looking at stand-up comedians, Israeli stand-up comedians, and the way they react to anti-Israeli and anti-Jewish attitudes towards them throughout the world. And I see a similar pattern, but there it is not visual, they're just saying the jokes. But it works on the same mechanism, taking a stereotype and making it so ridiculous that it is inverted. But other than that, not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Laur's question to Kim, I guess. Do you mean Jews copying Christian anti-Semitic motives without understanding them?
Well, that was in response to Kim's question, which
Okay.
I didn't really understand. She asked, did you find anti-Semitic illustrations in Jewish medieval manuscripts, not Christian ones? So I'm like wondering, like, well, what? So I thought the only thing I thought of was Ruth Mellenkopf on the birds' heads and other animals' heads, Haggadot, that she said that the animals' heads were drawn originally by Christians and meant in an anti-Semitic sense, and the Jews copied the Christians by depicting Jews with animal heads without understanding the anti-Semitic source of the animal heads. But then Mark Epstein and others didn't really accept the whole concept. I think it's fallen out of favor, but I'm not even aware of any other possibility or how Jews could be producing anti-Semitic illustrations. Sara, you could.
Something.
No.
Please, you can now. I think you're open. Your microphone is open.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
okay.
hear you.
I was thinking more like also anti-Semitism. So maybe like Jews trying to make other people like them and produce, like we see today, Jewish people that accept in a way the modern anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism. Maybe some things like that were also common or not common. Maybe it was.
When it happened, they already converted. They were almost all the way to Christianity or already converted. So all the disputations, for example, were initiated by former Jews that converted to Christianity. So that's usually how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Right, like that would like be what Kim is referring to would be more of a modern post-emancipation kind of phenomenon, I think, with where someone could remain Jewish, but also be opposed to Jews in a certain sense. I guess I don't.
There is self-criticism, but not in the auto-anti-Semitic way.
Yeah, but like being a self-hating Jew and remaining Jewish, like that. Yeah. It's modern. It's a
remaining within
modern.
a community, it is much more difficult.
Sara, what if you could sum up the point, the focus of your lecture? I had a hard time getting it. I mean, I found like there were a lot of nice episodes and things, but I kind of missed the whole what brings it all together, like the
Taking
point
anti-Semitic stereotypes from the past, from present day, turning them upside on their heads by using them, not denying them, exaggerating them, and then showing the absurdity of such stereotypes. This is the way they fight these anti-Semitic ideas, by satire. But my project looks only at the performative arts, working also on plays and not only TV and not only the big screen, that is related to ideas already presented in the past, in the Middle Ages, in the pre-modern period, and only in a satirical way, and in the arts made by Jews. For example, Rabbi Jacob, the French movie, it wasn't made by Jews, and this was not the intent of the creators, so it's not part of my project.
So Sara, so you have now, I mean, you've been working on anti-Semitism through your whole academic career, if I'm not mistaken, at least all the way back to your doctorate, no?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even in kindergarten, I experienced anti-Semitism.
Well, okay, experiencing, but studying it, researching it, and studying it. Yeah. And then you focus more on the medieval period than in your own scholarship. But now it's like recently we've experienced a real resurgence of anti-Semitism in the world, especially since the 7th of October. Not like very shocking rise of anti-Semitism throughout the world. Primarily on the left, it seems, but then now recently, in the last few months especially, around the world on the right-wing anti-Semitism also seems to be making a big resurgence. And if I'm not mistaken, the type of satirical responses that you discuss in the lecture are also being employed today to respond to the modern and like to ridicule the modern anti-Semitism, not the historical. Are you working on that also?
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah. It's a very depressing project. But at least some of the images are funny.
Yeah.
I started working on it years ago and I stopped courses on it, but since October 7th, it's something that I found more important than other studies for me at the time.
I mean, I have another question. Maybe it's not a question; it's more a point for discussion. Would you say that the modern antisemitism and the medieval antisemitism is the same antisemitism, or just because the target is Jews, so it's the same, but the method, the techniques, all the way of approaching it is totally different. For example, all the Middle East crisis, Palestinian versus Israel, is something that we didn't experience during the medieval times.
Not entirely, but
definitely an anti-Semitism. So.
I'm always.
It's an open question. It's not.
No, for me, I'm always saying, even before October 7th, that they are not very original. They are using the same mechanism from the ancient time, and it works.
Yeah, but this is common to all type of hatred.
Yeah.
but
yeah, but like
specifically
But
to
that's
the
a question that
anti-Semitism, not even after
someone
the
anthropology or sociology and
even before October 7th, the hatred to the Jews in Israel or to Israelis is different than the hatred to the money rich greedy Jew big nose in Europe. Suddenly we are the occupiers and the
not always. Sometimes they are using the same stereotypes.
Yes, of course there are shared motifs. No doubt. It's definitely works. It's clear as sunshine, but clear as daylight. But I wonder if it is really the same thing, or just whether hatred to Jews, whenever it is anti-Semitism or a different type of anti-Semitism. For example, medieval versus 2000 end.
It's not completely the same because groups are different, but the mechanism used, I can spot that it is almost similar.
Okay. Thank you for your view. I'm just asking the question. That's the easy part. You need to provide the answers.
So thank you very much again, Sara, for the lecture and for the audience for coming and for the questions. And then invite you for the next week to the lecture by Antonio Carvalho Bautista. He will take a lecture about introduction to medieval Spanish bookbinding, till Spanish with English translation by Laura. So thank you again and see you next week. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you, Sara.
Bye.
Thank you, Sara.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye.
ליאור, אנחנו צריכים... ליאור על הקו? היי. ליאור עדיין על הקו?
כן, שלום נילי, מה שלומך?
בסדר גמור, מה שלומך אתה?
הכל בסדר.
אנחנו צריכים לדבר.
כן, בבקשה.
מתי אפשר לפגוש אותך ולשבת גם עם פרופסור איליה? רק אתה ואני.
צריך לדבר איתו, אבל בינתיים...
ליאור, אולי תנהלו את הדיון הזה פשוט במסגרת אחרת, כי לא יודע, זה כרגע מוקלט, אני מפסיק את ההקלטה, אבל...
לא, כן, תקליט את זה, כן, תפסיק את זה.
אוקיי, כן.